so this starter kit that includes this mini podcast series, so this private podcast series, it also includes a journal for mindset shifts as you go through all of this. And it includes a workbook.
Give me some of the main positioning or messages that were generating demand for the starter kit.
I think that's where I'm stuck.
Let's reverse engineer this for a hot minute, because welcome back to another coaching episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. Today we have Kayla Caldwell, a licensed profit first strategist, one of actually less than 400 licensed strategists in the United States. And she's here to talk about how she's going to use her private podcast in an upcoming launch. Kayla, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Now, this is going to be a great episode because we're chatting a little bit before we started record. So we're super excited to get into this. I think before we get into any of the details, I'd like you to give the audience a little bit of an understanding, an overview of your business ecosystem, kind of what you do, offers that you sell, and kind of where you think this private podcast that we're going to be talking about today fits into that ecosystem.
Yeah, so we're actually in the middle of a big pivot right now. Our main focus recently has been bookkeeping, QuickBooks Online, and we've been a profit first professional probably for about a year and a half. And when I say we have been, once I'm a profit first professional, my entire firm is a profit first strategist. And so we have focused mostly on the bookkeeping, but now we're starting to focus on the coaching aspect, really making sure that people understand their numbers so that they can grow their business with confidence. And so this private podcast is part of my starter kit of where the hell do I start when it comes to profit first strategy? How can I start paying myself first? And so this is going to be a kind of your intro into working with me and either going into a VIP day or going into a quarterly or yearly strategy with me.
I love this because I think, Profit First has been out for a while. And I think as business owners, I think it's intriguing and overwhelming,
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
for a lot of folks. And so I love that the private podcast is going to be that kind of dipping the toe in the water without feeling super overwhelmed, because I'm guessing most of the business owners you work with are super busy. They're not on top of their numbers necessarily, and not because they're bad at money or bad with money or anything like that. It's just because of capacity and likely just the fact that they can't prioritize even installing this profit first system, in their business. So I love the positioning of this already. So that's really, really great. Okay. Also, I think you mentioned too, in addition to the VIP and the quarterly and annual, you also have an upcoming book. Is that right? You want to talk to the audience a little bit about that?
I do, yeah. So the private podcast does give a little bit of detail into what the book will be. The book is focused around the peace strategy. And that's profit, energy, alignment, capacity, and ease. And so it's really about focusing and making sure that we're building that business around our life and not the other way around. So it does give that peace framework inside this private podcast, but the book obviously will go into a significant amount more detail than that.
Love it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And that feels very values aligned. You're obviously probably attracting a different audience than like a Dave Ramsey approach, for example.
Yes.
Which is a lot more like denial or restriction, and not super like build it around your life versus, more like sacrifice. Okay.
Well, and we here are moms first. Absolutely. We are here to be moms first. And so sometimes that means that we only work 20 hours a week. And so that shows us our true capacity. And at the same time, if we need a coffee in the morning to get through the day because our children are going to be screaming all day long, then we absolutely should just make sure that we have the dollar assigned for that coffee. And then we just maybe restrict ourselves in a different way. We budget otherwise, but we budget our time just like we budget our money over here as well.
Love it. Love it. Yes. Or if teenagers are being teenagers.
Yes.
That I understand.
I'm in the I'm a tired mom phase. Nora's in the, there's a lot
I'm tired
going
for
on.
a different reason. Yeah.
Adult.
Yeah. You're running around
My
like
kids
a
are
chicken.
starting to become adults. This is scary.
Yes.
Yes.
All in different phases.
Well, great. And we're still running businesses. So yes to all of this. Okay. I love this. So talk to us a little bit about the private podcast itself. So it's going to be a paid product. It's going to be the starter kit. We're thinking around $100 is the price point. And that you're going to have a lead magnet that drives people to it. So let's talk a little bit about messaging from lead magnet to why they would buy the starter kit, kind of the outcomes they can expect from it. And then obviously you're going to make the invitation to one or allow maybe all three of your offers and allow them to select.
Yes. So in my mind, profit first strategy is just the first step. There's a lot of parts to it that are what I like to call what Mike calls the targeted allocated percentages. I call perfect world scenarios, and we don't live in a perfect world. And so we need to start small, start with where we are, and slowly move towards that. So it's going to start with a freebie of a profit first assessment. Basically, you just fill in the boxes of how much money did you make on the top line? How much did you spend in operating expenses? How much did you pay for yourself? How much did you spend or save for taxes? How much did you save for profit? And really that profit, when we talk about profit first in the profit first world, just to give you a good idea, is it's not like the true net income. It is the profit distribution or shareholder distribution that you use to celebrate yourself and not use to sustain your everyday lifestyle. And so 9 times out of 10, majority of us have not taken a bonus out of our thing. We're just taking owner's draw. And so 9 times out of 10, we've saved 0 for profit and we save 0 for taxes to start because that's just where we are. And on top of that, we do what we like to call bank balance accounting. We look at our bank account, we have $1,000 in it. We say, oh, I have $1,000 for this project, when in fact, we haven't saved for anything. So we split them up into different bank accounts. But that is just the start. And so the starter kit that includes this mini podcast series, or this private podcast series, it also includes a journal for mindset shifts as you go through all of this. And it includes a workbook. What is our monthly expense cost? What is our time? How are we spending it? Is it in line with where we want to go in our business? Are we time blocking, or have we scheduled that out? Are we doing things that fuel us rather than drain us? Are we working with clients that we absolutely love, or do we absolutely hate them and we need to let them go? So it's asking all of these questions. It's got all of this in a journal, a workbook, and the mini podcast series.
I love that. And it's all connected, right?
Yes.
I mean, understanding even right fit clients, which I know sounds maybe silly to others. It's like, but that absolutely affects your profit. Like it really does. It really does. Okay, perfect. So talk to me a little bit about, so the lead magnet is the assessment. We've got someone who is, I assume the avatar is someone who's curious about profit first, knows that their numbers are not where they need to be, whether they were hit with that tax bill, which we've all probably seen business owners, especially in early growth phases, we're like, oh crap, forgot about that. And then you hit that deal, whether it's the tax bill trigger or they want to hire, make their first hire, or whatever that thing is where they're like, now I need to get serious about managing my finances in a different way in order to create different outcomes. So I assume that's the avatar that we're kind of working with. Okay, perfect. So then they're taking the assessment just to get some initial feedback to kind of say, this is where I'm at. And it's not obviously this is with values-based financial coaching. It's not a shame thing. It's just data. And then that tells you there's something in that lead magnet that would then lead to the starter kit or show that they demonstrate that the starter kit was the next step. Is that true?
Yes. So I have an email funnel associated with that assessment. And a lot of that assessment too is where we remove the shame. Is what I like to say is, if our operating expenses are significantly higher than the quote unquote perfect world scenario, then we're just stealing from ourselves. We're forgetting to pay ourselves. And so that's kind of where we just have to remember we have to take care of ourselves and our family. That's why we got into business in the first place. So what in the profit first world is what we call the bleeding, meaning if we've overspent in operating expenses, it really is just stealing from ourselves. That's what. So it's, while it's scarier words, or it feels like shameful words, or we've made these decisions in money before, it's okay that we made them then. That was the right decision then. And now we just need to move forward, and we need to let go of those expenses that just don't make us feel good anymore.
That's great. I love also the journal piece of it, only because I believe some of the entrepreneurs you're likely attracting are really good at what they do for their audience, and not necessarily people that are financial people who are really loving that aspect of managing the business. And so There's probably some confidence things, some mindset stuff, some learning curve things. And as you know, in this online space, there's a lot of comparisonitis. And so it's really
Yes.
easy to kind of know and say, well, I'm not doing something I should be doing when that's not even their zone of genius to begin with.
Yep. We like to remove the shoulds over here.
Great.
We don't like to should all over ourselves.
Oh, yes. Okay, perfect. So the starter kit gives them, talk to me a little bit about how you're going to promote the starter kit in the sense of like messaging and positioning. So obviously they get the assessment, they can see their results, you're sending them emails. Give me some of the main positioning or messages that were generating demand for the starter kit.
I think that's where I'm stuck.
Okay.
I do a lot of my marketing on Instagram / into Facebook threads. And so the idea is that just to get this starter kit out there with that assessment of like, where are we right now? Where do we start? And so that's really the assessment to just get an idea of where your percentages are, how much you've paid yourself thus far. And then the starter kit really helps you build into that from there of looking at your monthly cost analysis, et cetera. And so it's really just that next step in the process.
Okay, perfect. Let's reverse engineer this for a hot minute because I think it'll help me if we can talk at a high level about the content that's going to be in the asset itself. So in the private podcast itself, that might help me reverse engineer the outcomes or things that we talk about primary currencies, like your people are going to give you $100 cash and you're going to give them something that's going to increase or decrease in their life or in their business. And the more clearly we can articulate that in the marketing messages, the more they understand the clear value exchange. And so let's talk a little bit about the episode kind of architecture or themes, episode by episode, if we can.
Absolutely. So I have a quick outline. So episode
Great.
1 is Welcome to Peace and Profit. Profit isn't selfish, it's smart. How peace strategy will change how you do business and how to use the podcast journal and workbook together. Episode 2 is the Profit First Basics, so the P in peace. What Profit First really is, the simple steps to organize that. So that'll be kind of in line with that assessment that they came in with. Episode 3 is Energy, the hidden resource behind profit, why your personal energy is your number one business asset. Identify energy drains and energy boosters, what fuels us, what drains us. Episode 4, Alignment, build the business that fits you. How to align your offers, schedule, and strategy with your personal life. Why one fits all business advice never has worked for you, because no one is all the same. Episode 5, Capacity, the secret to sustainable growth. Understanding your real working hours and why boundaries equal more money, not less. Episode 6, Ease, making profit the default, shifting from hustle mode to peace mode, tiny systems that make a difference. Episode 7, Pay yourself like a CEO, not a scrappy startup. The emotional side of paying yourself, how to calculate it first and have a consistent paycheck. Handling debt is episode 8, Without Shame. The debt fits into your peaceful profit plan, the mindset shift it makes paying debt free, feeling empowering and not heavy. Episode 9, Tracking Wins, not just work. How to celebrate profit and peace milestones, why acknowledgement matters and not just as much as action. And episode 10, your peace strategy plan for the next 90 days, how to create a simple 90-day plan that focuses on peace, why progress beats perfection every time.
That's super helpful. Okay. So there's a lot of foundational things that are happening in this starter kit. And it's interesting because in the financial space, a lot of folks as a consumer, even if you're a business consumer, if we're doing B2B here, you could think of a starter kit, especially a profit first starter kit or profit first related starter kit, as like, this is going to be budget related. I need to fill out spreadsheets. I could see someone's reaction to that being work. Or things I have to sit down and do or look at numbers which to be fair, some of them haven't necessarily been looking at numbers. And this doesn't feel like that. This doesn't feel like that piece of it unless there's addition.
I'm glad it doesn't because there definitely is homework associated with it.
Okay.
Every single episode has a worksheet and a journal page associated with it so that they can do the inner work as well as the actual homework piece of figuring out where their money is going and their time is going.
Okay. I think, you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like you have so much experience installing the profit first system in a business that you know that if they don't go through these steps, it's not going to work. Like they
Yes.
have to do some of the mindset shifts, some of these foundational things in terms of their energy, alignments, capacity. Like you've got to cover some of these, which isn't necessarily like all about the spreadsheet and all about the numbers, but that's going to be what ultimately turns this into a successful system for them, which maybe not a lot of profit first consultants or financial advisors. And I say that in quotes because I don't mean like a licensed financial advisor, but someone who's going to give you advice about these topics. They wouldn't necessarily start there. They'd start with very mechanical steps.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah, I definitely am. I definitely lean into the feels. I lean into the woo when it comes to coaching with me. So that I strongly believe that I would not be here today if I had not done the inner work to be an entrepreneur, because there's so much required resilience as an entrepreneur. So if you're not doing that along with the money and the mindset shifts, it's never going to work.
Okay. I think that feels like a UVP to me, meaning that feels like a unique positioning that a lot of, like, they're probably hearing from a lot of, I'll just say use money coach here as a generic term. They're probably not going to hear that like this is a prereq or this is something that needs to be done in conjunction with, and we can lean on your experience and your know-how just to help them understand that you've seen this so many times that this is actually the path to getting this done easier, faster, and making it stick, which is ultimately what they want. No one wants to buy something and then be like, oh, it didn't work. Like they really do want it to stick, but they have to understand what they need in order to make it stick. And it's not just time on the calendar to fill out a spreadsheet. Okay. And it also sounds like, do you get avatars that have some resistance to looking at numbers? And so
100%. Numbers are an anxiety trigger for sure.
Okay. That tells me that in the messaging and positioning that this starter kit needs to help them overcome it. Because I think for a lot of, especially for a lot of CEOs who are, maybe the visionary or really good, like, again, not where financial management is not, at the top of their list for something that they enjoy doing in part of their business, and they haven't really been looking at the numbers. I feel like they have an awareness that they don't enjoy it, right? They're smart people. And so they have an awareness. And I think if this starter kit could help shift that for them and create a new belief that makes it feel easy and actually brings them peace, that I think is a really good positioning for this versus, we're going to install the profit first system in your business and it's going to be great. And you're going to, we're going to get all your numbers. Like you can see your money clearly is not what I would lead with, because yes, while that's what they want and should be a benefit, I don't think they understand that there's hurdles in the way in order for them to get there because they're smart. They're smart.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And what I found too, especially with my big creative minds that really hate the numbers, is that this has been the easiest way to gamify their numbers. They are forced to be more creative because they're paying themselves first. And then they have whatever is left over to pay for their business and grow for their business as well. But yes, understanding the numbers, but understanding your feelings behind the numbers is absolutely the first step.
Okay, perfect. And I'm guessing some of your folks have purchased like money mindset things in the past. Like this isn't going to be their first purchase into the money coaching.
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. I think some of the marketing can lean into that then and lean into the the underlying fears that they have and the daily, I would call it maybe like the narrative, like the daily experience of someone who knows that spreadsheet is sitting on their computer or sitting in Google Drive or whatever it is, like QuickBooks, whatever it is they use, and they know it's there and they don't open it. And I think that's something, not a fear-based marketing kind of a tactic, but just to acknowledge and lead with empathy and to demonstrate that you understand the resistance of it and position the starter kit as a way as a fun way, as an easy way to overcome that resistance. Because to be fair, who in this industry is making this fun? How many people? right?
Yes.
So I think if you can pull that off and really make it feel, and you might even want to use the word like we're gamifying this, because that makes it feel like it's actually going to be more fun than what a lot of these people are probably thinking, which I mean, I enjoy spreadsheets, but I'm nerdy and that's not fun I'm very abnormal when it comes to, you have to get excited about a spreadsheet. Like I use spreadsheets for vacation, but most people don't. And so I think if you can lean into that and make it feel fun, that gives you a great positioning advantage in the competitive landscape of things.
Makes sense.
Okay. I like that. And this could also be, I think it also is positioned as ultimately people are going to come to you because they want the profit first system installed in their business. And I think you can position the starter kit as the critical step, like the must-have step in order to make that happen. And if you can explain why this is so important for them to do before, they are getting into the nitty-gritty of the numbers and why this makes it stick, that will help increase. Because my guess is that once they experience your delivery in the private podcast, it makes it a no-brainer to want to continue working with you, whether it's a VIP day, quarterly or annually. My guess is that the delivery is going to essentially demonstrate your ability to help them and demonstrate that the alignment of your values and just the fact that you're the right person for them to continue working with. So the next conversion point will be a lot easier once they experience the first one, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think that's how I would do that. I would also recommend, so in terms of the episodes, I assume you've got emails going out with the private podcast. So are you dripping the content, or are you going to do a bingeable instant kind
I
of
was
feed?
thinking of binging it.
Yes.
Every single episode is 10 minutes or so. So they're all very small, very consumable. It's the homework associated with every episode, because there is a journal prompt with at least one with every episode. There is also at least one worksheet with every episode.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think, Lindsay and I have done this. And Lindsay, you're with so many options, like you and I both know that people will binge this and not do any of the homework right away.
Yep.
And that's great because they can see where we're headed. And when they actually do sit down, do the journal prompt or do that worksheet, they'll have a really great understanding and be motivated because they know that this is the step to get to the next one. So I think that's a really smart way to handle that.
Yeah. And I would say too, I'm always big on transparency and like giving permission. So like you could say, I designed this for the person who's really, blah, blah, blah. But like you also might be doing this and you want to binge it all, right? So just reminding them that they could do it both ways. There's no behind. And however you can like weave that into your content, whether you could totally do like dynamic content on the front end, if you want, on like certain episodes or for a certain length of time if you want. But the idea would just be to push them to do it, because I could see myself, yep, I like binging, I'm driving, I'm not workbooking.
Yes.
But the reminder that is what is happening. So that's what we do we just launched Launch Your Audio Lead Magnet. And I say there's a workbook with this, and we call it like a guide or something, because we created like AI tools that like are helping people with it. But either way, and I say like, if you're not looking at this as right, just say like, I don't expect you to be like, have the kids. You can bookmark it using your app if you want, or if you're not in the place to hit on the show notes to put it in your folder. I say something like, I hate Google Docs on my phone. I totally get it. That kind of thing. Just like let them be seen. And as the teacher, they connect with that, because then they're like, oh, I didn't do it. Right. Like, when in reality, you have no idea what they're doing. But if you just name it, then they're like, oh, she gets me. She knows how I am. Right.
Okay.
So whatever works for like how you talk to your clients, I would put in the show itself.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And that's absolutely, you can binge it all and then do the workbook completely separate. In fact, I plan on doing a whole nother episode on like, here's how to do the workbook.
Perfect.
Basically.
Love it.
Yes. And then every episode has those journal prompts at the end. So you can really just like pause the podcast and think about it yourself. You don't even have to like write it down.
You don't have to write if you're not a journaler. Perfect.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. I like that. Okay. And then in every episode of the private podcast, you will in the show notes have the links to whatever your calls to action are. So don't wait till the last episode. Put it in, you can use the universal footer in Hello Audio, and it'll just show up in the show notes of every episode. And here's why. Because People might binge it, as we just talked about. They might go back and forth. They might find one episode a little less resistance than others, and they want to start there, or they're more motivated to start there, which is great. Let them. And then that might be the thing that pushes them over the edge. And then, for them to want to continue. So I would want those links in every episode and in any emails that you're sending to push people back to the content. So this is the other piece of this private podcast, because it is a conversion asset in and of itself, and it leads to another conversion point. We always want to make sure that we're increasing engagement and consumption of that. So making it bingeable is a great thing. And then also just reminding people to go back to it, because your people are busy and they might start listening, and then, life gets in the way. End of school, is happening, or whatever that might be. And so emails that are designed to either you can tease the content, you can refer back to specific episodes, just allow people to go back to consuming it and reminding people. And then you can have the calls to action in those emails as well. We want to make sure we're getting as many people through the content as we can, because that's what's going to lead to the next conversion point. And then are you promoting this on the marketing side of it? So on the launch piece of it, are you going to promote the starter kit separately, or are you focusing your marketing efforts on the lead magnet and letting the lead magnet lead people to this starter kit?
I think I would like the starter kit as that. As of right now, I think I set it up as the freebie, but I think it really needs to be that starter kit of as part of the launch, just going directly to it. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the plan? What's the traffic? I assume list launch, you're going to go to your existing list. You're probably going to do organic social, just be with your audiences. Any other traffic strategy plays here?
Those would be the two to start.
Okay, that makes sense. And even if you do plan to run ads, I would always do organic first, just because you're testing messaging and you're looking at your conversion rates, and conversion rates for cold traffic is just going to be different than warm anyway. So that's just kind of what it is. Okay, perfect. Targets. Do you have targets for the launch?
I don't believe so. Remind me what you mean by that.
Like good, better, best. I want to sell, so many people, or so many people into the private podcast.
That's a great question. No, I have not thought about that so far. I've thought about, like, after you go into the starter kit, how many VIP days I would like, or how many annual, which are, and launching the starter kit, pre-launching the book. I wanted to sell 5 partnerships or 5 year-long things in this quarter.
Okay. So in order to get 5, I'm going to recommend a spreadsheet, because this is what I do. And I want you to just build a simple conversion model.
You're talking to the right person for that, I would say.
Right? Yeah. I think you've got this down. I'd be like, I already know. But you want 5 as your outcome, as your final conversion point. I want you to assume, you could probably target, if you wanted to be conservative, you could use a 20% conversion rate for the private podcast. Private podcast, it depends. For people who consume the content, because it's an intimate format, because you're creating a connection, because, depending on how the content is architected, if it feels easy, if they're doing it, it could be 5%, it could be 20%, it could be higher. So you can play around with what you think that conversion rate might be. I would use a couple of different ones and model it. And then based on that number, look to see how many people we need to get in there to purchase it in the first place. And then for that conversion point, if it's your list, hopefully they're converting at, anywhere between 30 to 40% of because they know you, right? That's going to be a different number for cold traffic. But then I would just keep kind of pushing that model, so that how many people, how many eyeballs we need to see on this landing page in order to get people in to get the 5 conversions you want on the back end.
Are you doing sales calls for this? Or I don't know if I missed that.
I can. They can just go directly into buying as well. But yes, as a financial professional, I always recommend a free 15-minute coaching call.
Yeah. What's the price point on the back end for like an annual or a VIP?
VIP day right now is running at about 15. It's about ready to be increased to 2,000. And then it's just 4 hours. So it's a shorter VIP day, and it has to be done with you, which is the other big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a true, we just sit down together and we strategize. And then the year long is priced at about 7,000 right now. And then the quarterly is about 25, about to be 3,000 to for that increase.
Okay, that makes sense. And financial coaching, like the $7,000 one, yeah, I can see the sales call being absolutely necessary just because that's just how people buy. More often than not, in this economy, just where we're at, I'm seeing more touch points are required, more reassurance. I will say the biggest theme I am currently seeing as of right now is confidence and certainty. So if you think about the perceived value of any offer, someone's perception of certainty, and I know we can't guarantee certainty because they have to actually participate in their own success here, just like with any coaching or consulting offer, right? And if they feel like their success is more certain, if they feel more reassured in that, they have a higher perceived value of the offer, right? So what's going to affect their confidence in their ability to be successful? And by be successful here, it might be installing the profit first system in their business and actually having it work for them so that they get all these benefits of feeling at peace, knowing where their numbers are, paying themselves like a CEO, right? All of the benefits we've talked about. And I would say anything we could do in our marketing messaging, whether it's testimonials, whether it's case studies, whether it is leaning into how many people are using, how many successful businesses are using the profit first method in their business. I think that helps establish that kind of peace of mind and that certainty that people are needing more and more. I will say this, as we see consumers and business owners being more discerning about where they're spending their money, you have a marketing angle here, which is, in uncertain times, we do need to make sure we know where our money is going. And so if you're going to invest in anything, it would be investing in this so that this will help give you insights into where you can cut waste, where you have potential inefficiencies, and how you can make sure you're set up for success no matter what happens. So I think you have an angle in your marketing there, especially just given where we're at. And I would lean into that too. Again, not fear-based, but more empathy-led, demonstrating your ability to help get where they want to go.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big theme I'm seeing. And that's at every price point, from high ticket to, like courses and things like that, digital course price points. Okay, I like this. This feels good. I like the marketing plan. I do think you could potentially, I would want to see where conversions land with your list launch and your organic traffic before I would make recommendations for reaching out to cold traffic. I would want to do a little bit of analysis on messaging, and I would want to see those conversion rates. They're not going to be the same as cold traffic, but that might help us tweak and optimize before we go to cold traffic. So I like that sequencing of things. And then the messaging is really leaning into your sharper point of view in terms of how this is like both of these things. And if we can give it a name, like it's not money mindset because that's so overused. But I would say, there's something there that they need in order to get this system installed. And I think if you can demonstrate that both need to happen in parallel and this is the way to do it, it's going to give you an advantage in that competitive landscape. And if you can lean into that, I do think you'll get the right people in, which is also important here. Because if you don't get the right people in, especially when you're working with people one-on-one, I know how that ends. So that's not super fun.
Yeah. So thinking of the word, the peaceful mindset, maybe, or the.
So I feel like I would have been an ideal person back when I started my business. And I just dropped like money frame. And the reason why is something around like framing. It's like pre-framing. It's like, because money mindset feels very, when I was doing this in 2018, it was like felt new to me. Now I'm just like, eh. But the frame of reference, reframe, I hear too. And that I've seen multiple times in my own journey of like, oh, I needed that reframe. And it's like, oh, that's how I could think about money. Or one moment I'm thinking of is when we were raising capital for Hello Audio, I needed this reframe of like, well, maybe people like really are excited to join this and they just want to give you money. And that like blew my mind. Like, why would someone give money and not expect a return? And the reframe I needed was like, you're offering them a gift, like you're giving them a gift of being a part of it. And I was like, whoa. So reframe. Mindset is like a different language. Play with it. I don't know that that's the exact land, but like that feels good for me as somebody who was definitely your ideal person when I was starting my business.
Is framework still like more so the opposite?
So framework feels like, yes, that I see your piece part. So it's less framework and it's like a way of seeing something. So maybe frame isn't the right word. It's like
reinvention.
reinvention. Yeah, like I'm picking up like new glasses and like you see it like that already, right? I've never seen money like that. Therefore, I need this like new way of seeing, right?
You know what? That actually is right in line with my branding because my like little logo is a set of glasses.
Oh
So
yeah, and you have your glass
reframe.
Yeah,
You're you're picking up your rosy glasses
pick
or
up someone else's glasses and like and it's not just like a mindset. It's just like, oh, I didn't know you could see the world like that. That feels less loaded of a term.
Yeah.
Or like a
yeah,
way of
that's a great way to say that.
talking
Less
about it.
loaded. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like something about money mindset is just like it blends in with everything else. And it's just like, like there's a lot of, I've tried that before and it doesn't work. And you know why? Because everyone uses money mindset. So one person's just going to tell you like meditate every day. And you're like, okay. And another person's going to tell you like wake up and do gratitude. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's why it's loaded, is because everyone on the spectrum uses money mindset. And it's just like messy because everyone's tried something like that before.
Yeah. I like
Nora's
that.
having some thoughts. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to think of what it is because I'll play with it. And if I think about it, I'll definitely contact you because my brain probably needs to like a good 3 a.m. wake up call of like, that's what it is. That's the thing, right? Because you're right. It's like, it's presence to me. It's how, it's almost like sure, it's profit first, but it's also their presence and how they're showing up for it. So I'll play with it.
It's finding peace within your profits.
Yeah. And I think for that too, leading with that, for people who are not experiencing profits, they might be like, I need profits before I feel like I can find peace. Like that might be a weird thing for
I
them.
believe that's even in there of like in my email series. I remember writing it at some point late last night when I was putting together the email series of like, oh, one of my clients thought that they needed to be making XYZ before they started. Yes. When in reality, we actually need to start with profit first from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's a great false belief to really kind of knock down at the beginning. Because I think to show that it's that prerequisite in order to achieve it, it makes sense. Yeah. Because I do think you're going to have people that read that if you did say find peace in your profits and they're not there yet and be like, well, they can't even future pace that.
I think the other big thing that makes me so different is like I'm also a firm believer of small businesses because we don't have to have $1 million business to sustain our family. Yes. And so that is like the big thing is I'm always going to tell you that profit doesn't always equal money. It's definitely going to be the being present with my kids. It's going to be I get to go hike in the middle of the day because I just don't feel like working today. Or I get to, take a moment in the middle of my day to go walk my dog because I need to go do that. Or if I want to take time off, I can take time off. So it does not need to be $1 million company to be profitable.
Totally.
That's where I'm very different from most profit first.
I think it's like you're redefining profit and like what that could mean for people is like a nice way to look at it too, because I follow like Andrea Crowder, who's a user of Hello Audio. There was something that landed with me when she talks. She doesn't like using money mindset either. I don't know what she uses, but she talks about like abundance versus overflow. And abundance is another one of those words that's really overloaded. Yes. And people are like, what does that even mean to me? Like, I don't know. But overflow, and I heard it when you said profit, it's like the overflow is there's a plenty to go around and there's so much. And there's something about that feels more in line with not just money for some reason, like energy, like presence, like focus with your kids, something like that. So yeah, there might be something there too of like thinking about, especially from the perspective of, epiphanies, right? In marketing, like the epiphany of like, this is why the word profit is so loaded. And this is how I like look at, you know what I mean? And so there's something there too, I think that I get from your content that's very like helping people look at it differently. And I think when people are going to be like, oh, I've not looked at it like this before, that's the buy-in that you get.
Yeah, that's it. I love it. Okay, I think this feels good. You've got your great organic marketing launch strategy. So you're going to lean on your existing audience, which is exactly what you should be doing. The outline seems really solid. We know we have some, the calls to action throughout. We're going to have emails that point back to increase consumption, really boost engagement. And, I think based on how the messaging is doing, If you choose to test ads later on, like you've got so many options to then really grow it after we see how the initial internal launch goes, that this will give you more fuel to optimize it for the next one. Whether you turn it evergreen or you decide to do a new launch, like you've got so many options here for sure.
Perfect. Yeah.
How you feel?
I do. I feel good. Yeah. I'm really excited about like the glasses thing. It's just,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
it feels very aligned.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the results of this too. Keep us posted. We could maybe have you as a case study on the show, right? We could go from coach to case study. That would be cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Thanks so much, Kayla. It was a pleasure having you on. Nice to meet you. And best of luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.